You know what a great man once said, I don't care if you eat as long as your head is not in a plate. I think that there is a big difference of having a need and a certain amount of being limited by it than being enslaved by it.
Or you will use Hashem to eat and to think, have your head in the stars.
No.
Because if you're eating, you should enjoy what you're eating,
right.
And you should be perfectly aware of what is going on when you're eating.
But there's two kinds of eating that way. There's an eating that way, which is a very healthy thing. You have to eat. You have to enjoy your food. It has to be. We recognize it as this is meat. But you have to realize that there is also this kind of distortion of effort, which comes when we put into food something that doesn't belong there. When eating becomes a separate psychic activity and a psychic environment all in itself. And we can do that very easily. There are a great many people who satisfy a lot of their other needs via eating. We don't want that. I think that what happens to us is that, I think that Bert once pointed it out very sharply, when he said, what is all this involvement in kashrus with all the emphasis on the stomach? Now, I think that what has happened here is that a mitzvah was turned around exactly on its ear. Because the idea of, I think the part at least of the idea of kashrus, this is what the Ramban says it, is to detach ourselves from the emphasis on food as a psychic activity by sanctifying it, by putting in it what should be there. The idea is that we would exclude what wouldn't be there. So then we have the American Torah, when Jews came over from the other side, and the Shabbos went right away, because they couldn't observe it or they felt they couldn't under the circumstances at that time. And a lot of other things went because of ignorance, and the only thing that Jews happened to hold on to was kashrus. And therefore it became the catch-all or the repository of the total Jewishness to a great many families. And I will say for it, that in some families it kept things alive enough that children and grandchildren were able to come back to it. And you will see that in the very small towns where kashrus doesn't exist, intermarriages run. In fact, there is a case that I have now before me of a youngster whose parents are opposed to this child going with someone not of Jewish faith. And the child said to the parents, well, what makes you Jews? You don't even keep kosher. Now, it has become a tool for the identity crisis when nothing else is left. Now, the side effects that it has, I'm sure Bert is right, and I feel very strongly that if we begin emphasizing everything within the food structure, within the putting everything on the stomach, right, it can become a disease too. But the fact is that this is a double-edged sword, and we have to recognize both sides. But the real issue that I think that is involved is that it's really a question of being over-involved in satisfying our needs, as if this were the sum total of life. And frankly, it seems to me that we in our generation should understand, because we have a philosophy of life that around us that is completely dedicated to the idea that life consists of satisfying human so-called needs. And the needs are prescribed instinctively. There are instincts, there are drives, and all of our life is for these drives. And I think that one of the things that we try to get out of is the idea that these drives are anything more than to keep us physically alive and healthy.
Wait a minute.
And throughout the culture.
I'm sort of very comfortable with that. That's all they are?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not all there.
I'll give you a Ramban if there's something about to the thing.
But it can't be all there.
What the Ramban, I think, is saying is that this is the first approach to food that you have to have.
We're talking about sex.
I think that's what he means to. I think that the Ramban is talking about a very fundamental relationship to Almighty. That they have to be within the spirit of our real need, not of our manufacture. When he is saying that one can be a novel while not transgressing the Torah, because a man in the Torah could have had 4 wives, 6 wives, 8, whatever you want.
So let me ask you, Rabbi, what are our real needs? Because I was getting around.
I think that I would like to go back to it. I think that there is an enjoyment of food which is necessary for heaven. And that is a very normal, healthy enjoyment. And there is an enjoyment of food in which it becomes a way in which we try to satisfy some kind of enhanced thirst that is pushing us around that sometimes we don't know a great deal about. And instead of taking each appetite separately and satisfying each need in the balance that the Almighty created it, we upset that. And whenever we upset the balance, that's when we are considered becoming involved and enslaved to it. Because I think it would be probably psychologically healthy, right to say that addiction, dependence, slavery to any kind of need is when the appetite is used outside of its proper domain. Or you are trying to satisfy more needs than one by one physical return.
But is that, sometimes it sounds like, like a therapeutic kind of thing, or it's a religious kind of thing. I mean, if you want, are we talking about just being, nice and healthy and well-adjusting and appetite? Because that has to do with the religious side.
You know what the Baal Shem said? That a small hole in the body is a large one in the soul. A small break in health is a big break in spirituality. I think that the fundamental realization has to be that we have to approach everything from the point, as you say, as human, but as healthy. And then we can strive.